Hello, this is Cynthia. Welcome to a tour of writing classrooms in learning cultures. In learning cultures classrooms, we practice what's known as genre practice. And what it is kids are given the opportunity to write about whatever they want in whatever form. The curriculum of learning cultures is purpose. The only requirement really is that you have to have a purpose and you need to be able to defend your purpose and you need to be able to successfully execute it. And the kids need to write across the required categories of writing that are outlined in the Common Core standards. So within each grading period, kids need to write across so many different writing categories. And so what they really need support in the curriculum is how to use time effectively. And so this is an example in Meredith Jack's classroom of how she supported students in using time. It doesn't specify what topics or forms kids need to work on. The curriculum of genre practice takes care of that. But the environment and the cues in the environment help structure students' time and the way they organize their projects. In traditional classrooms, you'll find a teacher's desk that could be as long as 10 feet, and it takes up as much as 100 cubic feet in the classroom. And in a learning cultures classroom where kids need to have free reign of space, 100 cubic feet is way too much space to take away from students because students need that space in order to find and achieve their intentions. So teachers need to rein in that space that they usually or would be accustomed to using for themselves. This is a picture of Meredith Jack's classroom. She was the writing teacher at Jacob Rees, 8th grade writing teacher, and that's a picture of her desk in the closet. Each day during work time, teachers typically conduct 2 writing conferences. The writing conferences last about 10 minutes per student, and this writing conference record structures the writing conference. Initially, the teacher prompts the student to identify their purpose and what are they trying to get the reader to understand, or how do they want the reader to understand. And the student needs to be prepared for the conference, needs to have something prepared, something written, not just plans for writing. And so the student then reads something and identifies what the writing does and how it does achieve what it's supposed to do. And then the teacher writes it down and then explains how they see the writing, where it achieved what it was supposed to do and how. There's a place for the teacher to respond, to write how these features aligned with the Common Core standards. There's a place to record what exemplars were used. And then the same procedures are repeated, only now it focuses on needs. So the student talks about what the writing doesn't yet do and how they might change it. And the teacher does the same. The student identifies something that they want to do in order to improve the writing, and the teacher follows in to help solidify the goal and the action plan. The student then reads or makes an oral promise because research shows the power of this. This is an example of how this practice is research-based. And then the student initials to indicate the commitment to the promise. This is an example of a way that students have opportunities to get feedback on their writing. It was a system, I think it was in Amy Pillar's classroom, where kids could put a post-it on their draft, submit it for feedback, and then get it back, and they would provide no similar favor to another child. In learning cultures, pictures are just as important as words, and we don't restrict students to only writing. We don't tell them that they need to write before they draw or that they need to draw before they write. The student's sense of purpose and intention informs the process of composition. And then, of course, there's the writing share in the Learning Cultures writing program. This is Amy Pillar's class, her share space. The document camera on the left, and then the student assumes the position in by the document camera to share their writing. It's projected on the screen, and then when the writing is finished, they take their seat in the little sofa there and field questions and comments from the audience. There's the document camera. There are prompts for the share on the left or on the projector. This is my son Liam when he was in 4th grade, when he was sharing. This is a share calendar. Everyone knows in advance when their turn for the share is going to happen so that they can plan. The share happens 1 week, and there's always at least a week between the writing share and the time when the student has a writing conference with the teacher, so that they have an opportunity to act on the feedback that was given in either opportunity to share their writing. They never happen on the same day. There's another share calendar and another from a primary classroom. A share station from 3rd grade. These are prompts on a document camera for writing and reading share. The share station from Meredith Jack's class. Audiences are essential for writers in learning cultures classrooms. It's really hard to have a purpose about anything in writing if you don't have an audience in order to share your purpose with, in order to kind of test out your efforts to find out if they're working or not. And so we, in learning cultures, need to make sure that students have audiences to share their work with. Learning culture students pick their own topics. They pick their own writing forum. They choose who they want to call on and ask for feedback during their seat at the writing share. And teachers make sure there are plenty of spaces and places for students to share and display their writing, to show off all the dazzling fruits of the freedoms of kids. Every classroom has a writing wall, and the writing walls are usually in the hallway so that the audiences are wider for students. Students know more people are seeing their work. And students are responsible for changing up the writing in their exhibition space. Here's an example of a child changing his writing. More writing walls. Here's an example of a writing wall where the viewers have been asked to leave a note. And so here are some notes that people have left. And I encourage teachers to take their classes on tours of the building so that they can read the writing of other classes. It is especially helpful for younger grades to take tours of upper grade students so that they can be inspired by forms. When kids have control of their projects and they have a sense of what they want to achieve and accomplish, and they have a sense of audience, then they go after their audiences and they take initiative to complete their projects. This is a picture of a wanted ad in the hallway that I found at Jacob Rees. Some middle school kids had been soliciting fashion tips for a project they were writing. Another important facet of the curriculum in learning cultures, in the writing curriculum, or what we call genre practice, is the writing display wall. Every classroom has a genre display wall. Every week in writing lessons, teachers do some genre exposure lessons where they show students examples of written forms, helping them understand how the different conventions or devices of writing help shape the piece and its success in achieving its purpose. Then these examples are posted on the walls so students can use and refer to them. This is an example of a genre display wall at the beginning of the year before these lessons have been conducted. And then once the lessons are conducted, the transparent folders get filled and students then have access to using them during writing. They can take them off the walls and use them as exemplars when they're writing. Genre display wall on narrative, argument and persuasion, This is from Amy Pillar's class, genre display on narrative. And then as the year goes on and students begin to produce writing, their writing then goes on the bulletin boards, on the genre display walls, into these transparent folders. Here's a narrative procedure, a how-to, and these categories align with the Common Core standards for writing forms. Persuasive essay, response to literature, report of information, and then this is Amy Pillar's class as well. Social studies was integrated into ELA, so there were reading activity blocks, writing activity blocks, and social studies was integrated into these. This is a chart to help kids understand how writing time is organized in the classroom. The lesson assumes a small portion of time, work time is the greater portion, and then the share about a quarter of the time. This is a comprehensive writing plan that includes what happens during writing time with conferences, table shares, and whole class shares, documented with names of the kids who have opportunities in those slots. This is a material station, classroom schedule. Here are resources for kids. More examples of resources for students from Meredith Jack's classroom. Has remnants of previous instruction. So here are some examples. A lesson on poetry and how it's organized. Writing workshop structures and expectations. Learning cultures as a curriculum of student responsibility. So how kids are expected to use time and space. A lot of instruction goes into that. Reflection on how the share is going, strengths, needs, and goals. The nature of feedback, why we give it, how we give it, where we give it. This is about writing structure. There's some exemplar text in the hanging file folder on the right. And now kids can access so many things digitally on the internet. So lessons on how to access exemplars would be important. And here's a lesson on genre. How do I look for generic forms that fit my needs when I'm looking for an exemplar bulletin board on using powerful language. Paragraph structure, details in writing, outlines and graphic organizers. The writing share, responsibilities of the author and the audience. A conference schedule. The environment in a learning cultures classroom is really laden with cues for students that help them self-regulate to the expectations of how they use space to help them use time in order to pace themselves to achieve their goals and commitments, to achieve their intentions. So these are examples of environments that do that successfully. On every desk there are 1,000-word cards in the upper grades. In kindergarten we start with 300-word cards, but by the end of the year kids are well able to handle 1,000-word cards. And these are tools that teachers use to organize themselves. A conference schedule. Each day typically teachers have 2 conferences with students. Conference binders. These are photographs of writers in action in learning cultures classrooms. In learning cultures classrooms, kids have free reign over classroom space. They can sit wherever they want. They can work with whomever they want. They have free choice of topics, free choice of written genres. The sense of relatedness and closeness is really important in a learning cultures classroom. And that sense of relatedness has been shown to be related to self-determination. So allowing students freedom of space and teaching into how to use space responsibly is an important facet of the writing curriculum. When students finish their writing share, they always say, "Thank you for listening to my share." And so I'd like to say thank you for listening to my share.